So the question now is, are we live? That's what I want to know. Let's see. All right. Here we go. I see Seth out there. Hopefully everything sounds right. I mean, it's the first time, so I don't know. I don't know what the sound is like and what the camera looks like. I'm kind of flying blind on this one, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I can tell already that the I don't think the chat window is working. So that's one thing that we might have to take a look so we can see chats coming in. But thank you, Seth, for checking in on that. All right. So again, this is just a quick test on the stream and see how everything is going. Obviously, I didn't dress up for the occasion or anything. I just flipped the camera on and gave it a shot, and see what's up with that. I did shoot a tweet out there and ask if people had any ideas or anything that they wanted me to talk about, and they said, Wave 1, I think Kunal mentioned they wanted to talk about the Wave 1 release and the features coming out. It's interesting. Like, for this release, I didn't really see anything that was massive. Like, I feel like every release, there's something that you're like totally expecting, that you're like, oh man, I'm looking forward to relationship insights, or I'm looking forward to editable grids or anything like that. It's kind of like I feel, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, and thank you, Pasha, for tuning in. I feel that the way I think about this release is it's kind of like the I don't know, the wrapping up some of these features. Like, I feel that there were some features that were released and they were like, oh, like it's gonna be completed by the next release, or I know that you can see it, but you can use it until the April release. So I feel that there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of features that we were expecting, and then finally we're gonna get to use them. But from what I can tell, a lot of organizations out there are not as much concerned about the release itself, about what's coming in the April release. They're mostly concerned about the impending upgrade to UCI, right? That's what I feel the people are the most concerned about, is getting ready for it. At least some of our customers who we've been working with them and trying to get them upgraded. I think since last year, every single implementation that we've done has been in the unified interface. Even though not all the features that we have today were out, but I knew that, look, Microsoft had already announced this is not an NDA thing. They announced that by October of 2020, they were going to be removing, the classic UI. So because of that, every single implementation I did in 2019 and obviously in 2020 has been in the new unified interface. So because of that, a lot of our customers, current customers going live or pretty close to going live, they haven't really had the need to worry about the upgrade. But we do have some customers that were either dormant, for example. I know that there are two right now that we're working with that we implemented for them like back in 2015 or something like that, 2016. And obviously they're still using their solution. They're still loving it. They have user adoption. But then now they're coming back, and in some cases we haven't really heard from them in a couple of years, and they're coming back, and it's like, no, 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 we love this thing, and we want to protect it. We want to make sure that that is all covered. So now we're working with them to convert them, and I think that having that philosophy of staying away from unsupported customizations and all the code and all that stuff really helps in times like these. Like there was one customer that we spent literally like a week or something just testing their stuff. We created the application on UCI, walk through all of their different entities and make sure all the workflows and everything are still running and everything is good, and they're good to go. They're now waiting. I believe their upgrade is May 19th, and they're going to get upgraded. They're going to go live. No issues, right? Little bit of retraining, right? I like that analogy that this is like getting that new iPhone, going from the old one with the home button and all that stuff, going to the one without the button. Like it's still an iPhone, but it feels a little bit different. You have to get used to it. You have to get used to the way to use it and access all the applications and all that stuff. So I believe that for users, this unified interface, it's kind of like that. It's the same thing. It's sort of like it looks like Dynamics, but it's not exactly Dynamics. And my favorite thing is to get to show them some of those advantages of having the unified interface, right? How fast it is, the quick access to other records in the same view. So I like to show them how they can expand that section. I like to show them, for example, how they can kind of append the business process flow to the right side of the screen. So instead of sitting at the top and having that thing opening and closing constantly, which is a change, because remember on the UI before, it was always open. You see the business process flow and all the steps and all the stages and everything in there. But now in the UCI is collapsed, which is great because it gives us more space and you're not always using the business process flow. But my favorite is to just put that thing on the right hand side, append it to the right hand side of the screen. So I like that stuff. So when I get to show them things like that, and I get to show them the app for Outlook, for example, and some of the things that are possible there, and the fact that it works in phones and pretty much everywhere, I love to get them excited with those things. And again, I think that once I explain the analogy of switching from a previous version of a phone to the new one, people understand it. It's going to be like, okay, it's awkward now, but it's not like it was the time we implemented, right? Some of these companies came from Salesforce or a proprietary CRM system or whatever to Dynamics. Like that was a huge jump. It's like going from Android to iPhone or something. It's a massive change, but now we're upgrading within the same UI, so or within the same system. So it's not a drastic change. All right, so let's see if who's in, and I have 7 viewers so far. So thank you to whoever tuned in to watch this inaugural broadcast. Again, I don't really have a script or anything like you guys are used to by now, because that's pretty much how the podcast has been for almost 3 years now. I think either this week's episode will be I'm pretty sure this week's episode, the one that is going to be dropping in on Sunday or Monday, depending where you are in the world, I think that will be our 3-year anniversary, actually. Either that or the next one. And it's pretty awesome that people still enjoy the podcast. And, it's pretty much like this. I think of a topic or I get a recommendation. I got one recommendation from Danny Cahill in Australia pretty recently. So Danny, thanks for that, about a topic that I never really thought about, to be honest. And I was pretty surprised of how good the suggestion was, because we do get suggestions all the time, but it's typically suggestions that are, I think, more conducive for something like this, like a broadcast, or something like a 2-Minute Tuesday or something. It's not something you can build a whole episode around. And just to give you a little bit more clarity, I'm really big from the podcasting perspective. I'm really big into this whole, action, reflection, and stakes. These three elements of a good podcast or a good story, right? There has to be action. You're doing stuff or things that you're missing or whatever. There has to be something. And then there has to be some reflection. Reflection is when you can take what you're listening to and match it against projects that you've worked on or your career or your future, right? So sometimes we get to discuss things like what are the things that solution architects should know about. So if you're a functional consultant, you're like, okay, so I listened to these top 10 things and I think I got 5 of them pretty good, and the other 5 I need to invest time on it. But I want you to have that period of reflection of listening to the episode and kind of decide what to do with it, right? I want you guys to think about. So if you notice, and again, I haven't really talked about my themes and what I think about when I'm recording the podcast. I always think about what can I talk about that will have a lot of action, meaning do this or don't do that, or what would happen if you don't do this. And we'll talk about stakes in a second. A lot of action, so a lot of movement and also reflection. And then the last one is stakes. There has to be something at stake, right? The success of a project, or, saving money or not spending enough money, or, a lot of money, or whatever it is. There's always something at stake in every episode of the podcast, at least the ones that I get to record. The CRM MVP podcast is open to all Microsoft MVPs that are business applications. We've had several hosts, and they do a great job. The download numbers seem to reflect that as well. The episodes with other hosts are very popular, as well as mine. So that's good to see. It's not just about the host. It's about kind of the formula for success in the podcast. That's why you don't get to see things like, we don't cover the latest and greatest and stuff like that. It's just informational. There's not a whole lot of, action, reflection, and stakes, which are, again, in my opinion, the secret to an impactful, podcast and an impactful episode. So that's kind of how I go through it. So when I get suggestions for future episodes, number one, I do get a lot of requests for interviews, which I think is interesting, but not from people saying like, hey, you should interview that person or whatever. It's from people that want to be interviewed to promote something they do, whether it's a book or whether it's, their services or whatever it is. And they clearly have never listened to the show. And the reason I know why they've never listened to the show is because what they're asking for is stuff that I specifically say, I don't want you guys to contact me if this is what you're going to do, right? I don't have any sponsors, and I've thankfully, again, people have reached out to me to sponsor the show. I've always declined it because I've never wanted anyone to believe that we're motivated by money or whatever, that if I recommend some solution above another is because they're paying me. Like, that's never the case. Every time you'll see me at least kind of put my name on a product or recommend it and be like, I really enjoy working with Kingsway Soft, it's because it works. It's not because they pay me. Like, they don't pay me anything. I'm not sponsored by anybody. So, I want you guys to, when you hear something from me, it's because I mean it. And, I do get a lot of offers like that. Such and such invented this revolutionary sales process, and I think your listeners will really benefit from it. Well, do they? Will they? I don't know about that. So I try to learn myself. The same thing with the books that I review. So I've reviewed 2 books so far in the podcast, and they both are great. And there's more books that I would like to review. Specifically, my favorite book that I've read in my professional career, which is called Negotiation Genius. I wish I could review it, but again, it's one of those books that it's hard to connect to dynamic. So that specific reflection piece of it needs to be there. And with Negotiation Genius, it's hard. It's a really good book, but it's hard to establish that bridge between what you're watching and what you're reading, what you're listening, and your life and what's applicable to your life. All right. Any other comments or questions? Again, 7 viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me check on Twitter and see if anyone has any ideas or any comments or questions. So far, I only see Kunal in there. Auntie just liked my tweet. Come on, Auntie. You have a question? Bring it. Also, I wanted to try the desktop thing because I'm playing with all this stuff, and thank you to Seth for helping me out set this up. So let's see if I can switch to desktop and see how it works. See if you guys can see my desktop now. I don't know how that works. I assume you can see everything I'm doing on the desktop side, which is cool, and then we should be able to switch back to the camera. I don't know. I don't know if that worked, but let me know because I'm looking forward to that. Be able to switch back and forward between the desktop if I want to show something or my camera. All right, Pash is asking, what are your other go-to books? So I think, number one, Negotiation Genius, like I mentioned, if you read that book, it will change your life straight up, not your professional life, but your life, period. It teaches a lot of really, really valuable skills when it comes to negotiating things in life. And I'm not talking about just money negotiation things like, the buying a car or a house or whatever it is. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, negotiating things to come up with the highest value. And one of the things you will learn in the book is that just because you got what you wanted for the cheapest price doesn't mean it was the best outcome of the negotiation, right? In some cases, you might be paying a little more, but you're getting more in advance, or you're getting more, out of it. So, for example, if you bought a car that is $20,000, but you paid $21,000, but now it comes with twice the amount of warranty, maybe that is a better, deal than paying the 24. It's kind of like that. You kind of have to read it so you can learn from it. But the best thing about the book, my favorite thing, is that the way it was written by professors of negotiation skills at Harvard Business School. The way it was written is they put in real life negotiations, like this is happening, this is how much how would you go about it? And then they pretty much tell you, like, don't turn the page. Think about how you would do it, how you would approach this negotiation. If you were trying to sell this or buy this, or if you were trying to settle this deal, this contract, how would you do it? And then it really gives you a chance to think about it, right? I failed miserably in some of them. I think that you get better as the book progresses because your brain starts to change the way it thinks about negotiations. So it starts changing, and around, whatever, chapter 7, 8, whatever it is, you're pretty much getting them all or close to getting them all, to the T. So they are all real life negotiations that will ask you how you would handle. You think about it, then you turn the page, you read how it actually happened in real life and what were the outcomes, and then you learn from them. And they've written 2 books. The second one is called Negotiating the Impossible, which is what I'm reading right now, and it's mind blowing, right? I mean, they're talking about like nuclear stuff with India, like it's all real life stuff. So it's pretty cool stuff. Could you please provide top 10 rules or tips for finding good solution architects for a project? That's a really good suggestion. I don't know if I have like 10 things that I can talk about when it comes to finding good solution architects. For me, it's the same thing that we talked about for in episode 2 of the podcast of finding a good partner, or finding the right partner to work with. And, I always tell people that there is no company out there that is the right partner for every implementation. Like, not mine, not whatever you think is the best partner in the world. It doesn't matter who they are, who the MVP is, who the expert is. There's no one that is going to be the best selection for every project on earth. That's not gonna exist. It all depends on what you're trying to do, how you're trying to do it, and how you like to work with people. I think that is a big, decision maker item for me. So for me, for example, is for us at Elevate, we refuse to work with companies that don't want to be involved in their implementation. And I'm talking about companies that just give you a functional design document and say, how much is this? and do it, and at the end, show me that you've done it. Like, I don't want that at all. We've never accepted that. We'll never agree to a project like, I mean, I don't want to say never, because if someone shows up with $20 million, I'll do it. But for now, in real life, I'm never going to agree to just do work and have the customer never be involved. I think that a big secret to success is having the customer be involved, from beginning to end, on that they understand their solution from beginning to end, that they can own it after I'm done. All of that are super important things. So I refuse to work with companies like that. So I always say, depending on your project, kind of write down what are the most important things that you expect. I want a solution architect that involves us or not. I want someone who has experience in this industry. Like yesterday, I talked to somebody, a prospect that has an organization. They provide audio and visual services for companies out there and stuff like that. And they said, look, we want somebody who has experience in this area, working with other companies like us. Maybe might be manufacturing or financial services or professional services, whatever it is. So is that important to you or not? And I talked about this on the video that is right now featured on our channel. So if you're not subscribing to the channel, I hope that streams like this out of the blue will help you make that decision, because people will get notified. And not all the streams are going to be long. Like this one is going for 20 minutes. I like talking, so for the most part, they probably are going to be long. But in some cases, I'm just going to jump in. By the way, I will say that streaming is a little bit scary for me, because I cannot tell you how many videos I've recorded and then ended up not publishing them for whatever reason. Most of the time is because I feel like I went too far criticizing something, whether it is something Microsoft did or the industry's doing or other solution architects are doing, other MVPs. Sometimes I'm a little emotional, and I don't mind speaking my mind. And then when I'm watching the video again before I hit publish, I'm like, okay, I better not publish this. So I feel that these streams are the biggest chance for you guys to catch some of that stuff that perhaps would not make it live. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and help us become the number one, Dynamics 365 channel out there in YouTube. I mean, with all the 2-Minute Tuesdays and all that stuff, we're trying to climb up there. So to go back and answer your question, sorry for getting away from that, Oleg. Just think about what are those important items that matter to you, and also don't be afraid of confirming. Right? Everyone says that they have experience on everything. You can put right now an ad on LinkedIn or whatever saying that you're looking for someone with 10 years of experience working with, Power Automate, which is like a couple years old, and someone will show up and tell you they have 15 years experience working with Power Automate. Like, there's always going to be people claiming to be something they're not. I've seen MVPs do it. I've seen other partners do it. I've seen everyone do it, right? Claiming stuff, inflating their resumes in a way. I don't like claiming things that I don't know about, or claiming that I'm an expert on things I'm not an expert on, because I feel that I need to be able to back it up. Number one. And number two, when we start working together, you can pretty much spot when someone does this for real or not, based on their examples or on the way they approach things, based on their experience. So, just be honest about it. So don't be afraid to question when someone says, yeah, I have plenty of experience in the manufacturing industry. Well, let me talk to some of your customers. Or how would you tackle these things? And again, it all depends if that's important to you. I talked about on the video that I mentioned is featured on the channel, how a customer that I work with said, how much experience do you have in this area? And I answered the question right away, and I said, oh, I've done a bunch of implementations in the manufacturing industry. And they were like, we were hoping for a new perspective and not just using the same stuff that everyone else is using. So I shut myself in the foot by answering that question too fast. So I talk about that again on that video. 3 rules for solution architects, I think is called. So if that's important to you, ask solution architects what experience they have and if they can provide a new perspective on that. I think that it's hard to beat having a Microsoft MVP on the team. And the reason for that is because MVPs typically get to see things that are coming in the future. So they're really good insurance to keep you out of trouble. At least if you work with honest MVPs that will not do work and recommend things they know that is going to be deprecated. Now, we don't know everything. We don't get to see everything about everything. Like sometimes, some of my customers complain like, whoa, like how come you didn't know about this licensing change? Well, licensing is one of those things that we know zero about. We find out along with everyone else pretty much. And the same thing with acquisitions, for example. If Microsoft is going to acquire some company that does whatever, like I just named the field service Field 1 when they acquired Field 1. I could have been working on a project to implement functionality very similar to Field 1 without knowing that that was coming. They're not going to tell us or anyone that they're going to acquire a company like that. So we don't know everything, but we know a lot more than non-MVPs for sure. All right, let me catch up with the chat right here for a second. That was like a 20-minute answer to your question, Oleg. I don't know if I provided any clarity or not, but thanks for the question, Mornay. Hi in South Africa. I guess you're done with your week, so hopefully you're ready to relax and have good weather. I read somewhere, I have some South African friends on Facebook. I read somewhere that you guys were banned from working out outdoors or something like that, and now it's going to be lifted. So I guess everyone is just about to become a marathon runner out in South Africa. So we'll see how that goes. Looking forward to the updates on that. Let's see. Pasha is answering the Oleg's question. That's good. Great material. Thank you, Gary, for tuning in. Let's see. In love with Dynamics. Yeah, I mean, that's a good kind of approach to it, is hiring someone who's in love with Dynamics and the Power Platform. I don't know if I'm, in love with Dynamics and the Power Platform more than I'm in love with solutions that work. And I think that Dynamics and the Power Platform are great tools to help me build solutions that work. But at the same time, I think SharePoint, can help me build solutions that I love. I think that, third-party applications out there can help me build those solutions as well. So I am 100% in love with solutions that are adopted by the users and the companies can count on. So if Dynamics and the Power Platform can help me implement those things, then I guess by proxy, I love those things too. But for me, it's more about the solution other than the actual love for Dynamics. So one example is, I think it would be toxic for people to hate other CRM systems that are not Dynamics. Like I don't hate Salesforce or some other systems. I think they're good applications and they can be used to create, solutions like the ones I love as well. I don't bash Salesforce just because I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP at all. It's just I don't know how to use it. I don't see advantages on top of Dynamics because Dynamics integrates with all these other software that I also love, like Office and whatnot. And, for me, I think that Dynamics is a superior application, but I don't hate other applications or other CRM systems. I think that would be, too fanatical to hate on that. All right, so Mornay is answering my question. We're not allowed out to run. Now we're allowed between 6 to 9 in the morning. Oh, boy. Now it's going to be a bunch of people running around in the morning in South Africa. That's going to be interesting. All right, any other questions or comments? Again, this was supposed to just be a test for the system. One of the things that I'm excited about from the last release is finally we'll be able to use those file and image fields that Microsoft added. And it was kind of like a little tease, right? Microsoft added those things in the system, but it worked kind of weird. Like you could create, let's say, file fields, but you wouldn't see them from the form editor to add them into the form. So for a while, we see them in there. We can actually, kind of do it. Create the actual, like if you go to CDS, you will see the field in there called file, but you can't really put it on a form. So it was frustrating, right? So now the fact that we're going to be able to actually use them is going to be great. And that is one of those things that, I think a platform like this, streaming, will be great to talk about, because I know some people are going to come and be like, what is the use of a file, field if we can have an integration with SharePoint? And if we already have the attachments from Notes that we can add right into the the social pain, right? What's the point on having a file field type? That was a waste of time. Some people might think that. I personally like it for a variety of reasons, but it's for me, the fact that I've worked so much lately with things that are kind of a checklist, and there's actually a 2 Minute Tuesday coming up on this next week. Having something on a checklist where I can say, here is the sign agreement. Like if you're working with a customer and you're gonna be collecting like 20 plus documents, having the ability to pick the document, like the sign agreement that allows you to move forward or whatever it is, I think that would be, that's going to be highly advantageous in some cases to be able to just show that in there. Now, would you be able to debate and say like, well, they can just push it to SharePoint and then just, use SharePoint searching capabilities or whatever it is? Yeah, I guess so. But when I think about the user experience, having that one field just showing you the document that you're looking for or whatever, I think it's a pretty awesome solution. So that's the way I think about it. Do you know the roadmap future for the on-premise version? No, but I wish they would just get rid of it. I think it's very evident. I've been very outspoken about the fact that I would love for them to get rid of on-prem. I think that on-prem delays innovation. I think that having that thorn in there and have to think about what about on-prem. It's I wonder how many ideas the team has that on-prem shuts down, right? The team is like, oh no, we should do this. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I bet we win like a Nobel Prize of CRM for that. And then somebody comes in and is like, what about on-prem? And they're like, oh, right, on-prem, we can do it. We can do it on-prem. So personally, if it was me, I would love to see them pull the plug. I would love to pull the plug myself if they would let me, if that's a thing. But I don't know. What we know is that they've announced that the on-prem is going to be for sure guaranteed for years. I think they've extended the support and all that stuff. I don't follow on-premise that much. Other than the customers that I have to have on premise is because we're helping them go to the cloud. And I think it would be wise, even though I don't know anything. If I knew something, I wouldn't be able to tell you, even that I don't know anything. Even though I don't know anything, I think that it is time for those that are on-prem to start thinking about migrating to the cloud. I think that would be the responsible thing to do. That way, if Microsoft announces, and again, I don't know anything, but if they announce that, hey, look, after careful consideration, we've decided to make Dynamics 365 a cloud-only service starting in whatever 2025 or whatever it is. You don't want to, be now in a rush to try to get some help getting upgraded to the cloud. I think that you should take advantage right now, especially when you have programs like Fast Track that will help you make that upgrade all the way back to CRM 2011. They help you upgrade and move all your stuff to the cloud, something that was way more complicated before. We are right now at a time and in an age where moving to the cloud, it's easy, quote unquote easy, if you know what you're doing, versus waiting until things might not be as easy. That's what I'm thinking. So my opinion is, if you're on-prem, you should put it in the budget for 2021 if you haven't thought about it or whatever, but work with your partner. And if you don't have a partner, find a partner that can help you at least scope that and think about the timing, what's the effort for it, all that stuff. A lot of my customers, are obviously affected by this COVID-19, and their business is affected by this COVID-19 and all of that, but they are taking advantage of the fact that things are, down, and doing upgrades for UCI or going from on-prem to online or making changes to their dynamics is making sense because a lot of the users are available for virtual training. So they're taking advantage of that time, and I think that it would be wise to start thinking about, upgrading. Do I know the future plans of Word templates in Dynamics? No, but I haven't heard anything. I mean, I think they're there, and Word templates, at least if you're talking about just the most recent ones, because we have the mail merge templates, which are also Word templates. I don't know why they're called mail merge. I guess it's so you can print them and then mail them. I don't know if people do that anymore. Companies do that anymore. But anyway, the Word templates that came out like a few years ago, a couple years ago, with the Excel templates, I haven't heard anything. So I guess they're here to stay, at least for now. So we should be good to go. Until we have on-prem, the customers like government will keep using it. Um, a lot of government is it's on the cloud. It's moving to the cloud, or it's fully in the cloud. That's why we have data centers that are committed to government. The public cloud is committed just to government. Here in the U.S., for example, there's a whole data center where private companies cannot get in. It's just government. They can be in there, and the employees. There's a bunch of rules for those data centers to operate. So that is happening, and I think that there are other countries like Germany and France that are also going the same way. I think that the main thing, like if we keep it real, the main thing to keep on-premise around is that on-prem is just pure profit, right? You release this thing, you don't have to maintain it, you don't have to back it up, you don't have to do any of that stuff that you have to do on a data center, but you're still getting paid the licenses. I mean, it's awesome, right? So you don't have any of the expense, but you get paid all of the money. It's a great, great thing to have. So I don't know how much Microsoft makes from on-prem customers. I assume it's in the billions. So let's say it's $3 billion. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there. $3 billion they make in licensing every year from systems that they have zero work to do to support, essentially. Because if you need support is not included with on-prem. So even if you do need support, like technical break-fix support, those customers are paying for it. They're either paying their partner to do it, or they're paying Microsoft to do it. So it's not like online where support is included and, okay, so as part of your licenses, you can also open tickets. Not with on-prem. So there's very, very little investment on the on-prem side and keeping those things running. The customers are pretty much incurring in all of the expense for it, and they can make billions of dollars every year. So it's tough. It's tough to make the call. I guarantee you that if Microsoft was like breaking even with on-prem, they're not going to keep it around, And I realize that it is kind of an advantage because Salesforce and all these other CRM solutions are not on-prem. They don't offer an on-prem, option. Maybe it's an advantage, but honestly, it's kind of like, who's I don't know any company who that right now the decision making came because they can be on-prem. Like I try to talk everyone out of on-prem if they have it, and if they don't have it, man, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure there are situations out there where on-prem will be the recommendation, but I don't want to be involved on those for sure. All right. Anyone else? Maybe we can start wrapping up, and maybe on the fly, I can start trying to figure out why my chat box is not working. I'm a little frustrated about that. I wish you guys could see the chat on the stream, so I have to find that out. Maybe Seth can help me out. But I don't see it. I don't know what I have to do to fix it. But you get to see it on the right-hand side. All right, Mornez says, we've seen a lot of call centers being able to continue to work because they're hosted in the cloud during COVID. For sure. Like, it's a no-brainer. Like, my whole company, like all of the systems that we have run in the cloud, and that is the reason why, we're all able to continue to work like no big deal. Now, I already work from home. This setup that you see is not something I use just for streaming or whatever. And you can see kind of a glimpse. Like you can see these two monitors right here. I have 4 monitors, right? So right here in front of it, I have the monitor that I can share with you like this. Look, let me check it out. So if you weren't paying attention before, check that out. I can flip back and forward. That's pretty cool. So that is the monitor that is right here in front of me. And then I have the other one right here where I have the actual streaming application. So for me, I wish I had 6. Like I can never get enough monitor. I use all of them. I actually have these ones with like the wallpaper, but that's because these typically have like customers' information. So it's all, minimized right now, but I typically have those full as well. And yeah, so I work from home, and being on the cloud really helps with that for sure. And I noticed that a lot of companies that are not were struggling to go live and allow people to, access their systems from outside, whether it is by setting up VPNs, like just racing against the clock to set up some VPN solution or something, or by trying to make systems that were not internet facing before internet facing. We have a customer who completely broke their Scribe, integration because one of the systems they were integrated with went through the process of becoming internet facing, and in that process it was moved to another location, another data center. Something happened, the IP addresses were changed, and now none of their integration works. So we're going to have to fix that. So yes, being in the cloud is the right move. And the other thing is, a lot of customers that are on-prem don't want to go to the cloud because they think it's not secure. Like, oh, all of our data is going to be up in the internet. Like, that doesn't sound safe at all. But what you need to realize is that the companies that you keep hearing about that get hacked, essentially, are companies that are not in the cloud. They're companies that are on-prem, right? Like it happened to Experian here in the US, all of the, the credit information and all that stuff. That company's on-prem. They have their own systems. And there was a lot of, publicity about that, how their chief security officer was like a history major or something. Like they didn't even study IT in school. And that person was in charge of the IT security for the company. So, yeah, I mean, you never hear companies are in the cloud getting hacked and all their information stolen. Now, I'm not saying it can't happen. People do stupid stuff, like they use the wrong passwords or whatever, and people can log in and try to access systems and whatnot. That can happen, but not someone just hacking into your database hosted in a data center somewhere. That's just not going to happen. Any tips for MBAS coming up? From Mornay. So I know the MBAS is happening on the 6th, I believe, May 6th, next week. So I'm excited about that. For me, the tips that I have for MBAS is the same tips that I share for any other conference that you're attending. Try to attend sessions on stuff you're actually good at. Don't waste time going to sessions that are for things that you don't know anything about. Like, don't try to learn about portals if you don't know portals on an MBAS session for an hour. Like, it doesn't matter who the speaker is or what the content is. Like, it can be really good, but what you want to do is you want to take advantage of the opportunity to learn from people that are better than you at something you're already good at. So if you're a solution architect, go to our solution architect sessions with people that have been, doing it longer than you, or maybe if not even longer than you, but they have different perspectives and different, ideas and best practices. So you want to learn as much as possible about the thing that you actually do. If you're a developer, go to every developer session you can get your hands on. Don't just go to, oh, I'm going to go to this Power BI session because I don't know enough about Power BI. Don't waste time on that. That's always the wrong move. And I know that some people might disagree with me on that, but I'm a firm believer on trying to become the best you can be in one thing, or in one area, like solution architecture, functional consulting, developer, whatever it is. Try to become the best you can be at that. And, the other stuff is kind of just learn as you go, or learn, whatever you need to be able to do your job. So for me, I'm not an expert in portals. I don't need to be an expert in portals. So I go to 0 portal sessions and conferences because, I don't need to become an expert in portals to do my job as a solution architect. Now, if you're a portal architect or something like that, then you should absolutely do that. And I'm just speaking in portals because the first thing that popped in my head. But same thing applies. People are like, I've seen, like, at the UG Summit, for example, people that are CRM people, and they're like, I'm going to go to all these Business Central sessions because I've never even seen it, and I really want to learn. Well, while you're attending Business Central sessions, something you're not going to do for a living, you're a CRM person, you're missing out on such and such talking about best practices for user adoption, or, the lessons I learned by being a CRM administrator. Like, if you're a CRM administrator, go to CRM administration sessions, right? Don't just go to developer sessions. Like, what are you going to do? Become a developer overnight just after you attended 2 hours of a session where half the time is people introducing themselves or whatever? Like, no, don't waste time on that. So, that's kind of my approach to MBAS and my approach to, to every conference out there. I just go to sessions about solution architecture, user adoption, demoing, because I do get to do that for prospects. So if I see a session about someone showing how they demo Dynamics to prospects, I'm there. I want to learn more and get better at that. I think I'm already decent at it, but I want to get better and better at it. If I see a session about being a public speaker, if I see a session about podcasting, I'm gonna go. Like I just want to go and learn as much as possible about the stuff that I already do and that I'm already good at. So it's always a percentage to get better. Mornay saying attending sessions about customer insights, private virtual agents, and omni-channel. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing that kind of thing, then for sure be on that session. I'm not going to be in virtual agents. I know what it is. I know what it does. If I ever find a customer that I think will benefit from it, I'll bring somebody in that will, talk about that and that is an expert on that. But I'm not going to be in sessions about power virtual agents. I'm not, I'd rather be in a session about, you know, let's say model driven application design and things like that, because that's what I actually do. All right, so we're back up to 7 viewers. Any questions, guys, before we wrap up for the day? And I'm not saying this is gonna, like, I might just stream every day. Who knows? This is the easiest thing ever once you set it up, because it took like 2 days to get this thing up and running. But another thing, like, do you want to bring in guests? Because that's the other thing. I was thinking about inviting somebody. I just didn't want to do it for session 1, for stream number 1, because I didn't think it was going to work, to be honest, by myself, so let alone more people. But we'll see if we can bring more people, especially if we can bring them here to the house and do it here from the office. That'll be awesome. I would attend something if your company is looking to implement it or your industry is moving that way. Yep. So Seth, who's also a Microsoft MVP in Dynamics, agrees with me, right? Go to sessions based on what you're doing or your company's doing or your industry's doing. So don't just go to another one. Like, if you focus in manufacturing and you see a session about nonprofits, don't be like, you know what? I don't know enough about nonprofits. Let me go to that session. You're just going to waste time. Okay, you're going to learn a little bit, but you're not, you could have gotten better about manufacturing by going to a manufacturing session. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm going to try to find out what's going on with the chat. Hopefully, we got that fixed for the next stream. And again, if you have any suggestions, shoot me a tweet or an email and let me know what you think. If you listened to the last episode of the podcast, by the way, thank you. I mentioned that it was one of my favorites so far to record. I know that the title seems boring. It's just hardcore business thinking. But I'm telling you, if you're a solution architect, you need to listen to that episode and take notes. And there's a lot of opportunities for reflection. I was talking about reflection earlier today, and that was just part 1 of 2 of my conversation, of my review of Business Think. And I recorded for over 3 hours. And I didn't want to just release it all in one episode. I think it would be too much. So episode 1, I think it was like an hour and 45 or an hour and 50 minutes. The next one on Sunday is going to be shorter than that. It's about an hour and 10 or something like that. And, go ahead and tune in. After that, I have a pretty special episode coming up. It's actually like a triple release. So we collaborated with 2 other podcasters and MVPs to talk about solution architecture. Is being released in 3 platforms at the same time, so I'm excited about that. And once again, I will be streaming as much as possible. Let's see who else we can get. Oh, I forgot to say, and I know there's only 8 people in this show, but I'll give you the world exclusive news for this. And again, if you're not subscribed, please go ahead and do that. On May 12th, I want you guys to mark your calendars. May 12th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m., I guess Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, May 12th, we are going to be, or I'm organizing, one of the largest free events that we've ever hosted, essentially. We're going to have a ton of MVPs in there. We're going to have essentially all of the Microsoft product team leadership is going to be there answering questions about Dynamics. We're going to do it for 3 hours, and all we're going to ask people is to donate. So it's going to be a GoFundMe. It's a fundraiser All of the proceeds go to the CDC Foundation, which is fighting COVID-19 in over 140 countries. So I had this idea about having a 3-hour stream where we can do a Q&A. You can ask any questions you want about dynamics, future stuff, things that I cannot answer, but Microsoft can answer. We will all be there. So it's just, I don't know how many experts right now. The cap is 50 that I can have. All of us in video, all at once, answering questions. So once again, May 12th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that's going to be the evening in Europe and South Africa for you, Mornay. And then, even people from Australia will be able to join in early in the morning. So mark your calendars for that. And once again, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can help us, become #1 out there. So we'll see you guys on the next stream. Thanks again for tuning in. And hopefully we'll see you on May 12th.